Okay. All right. So every one of you will have to click on continue if you don't mind being recorded. Okay. So the links that we will be sharing those with you. Let me introduce to you the two incredibly wonderful women that are going to be speaking with you today. As I was thinking about this, one of the most important things that I wanted to impress upon you is the importance of being engaged in your local community as well as the national debates taking place today. It is of the utmost importance. It is also of huge importance to be unapologetically Latina, Latino, or X, because we are invisible in this country. Even though our numbers are large, we're invisible. We need to be informed and engaged to be seen, counted, and included in conversations. We will add to the concept of being unapologetically Latina, Latino, or X. And Olga and Teresa will provide some examples as they go along to find a way to ensure that we're included in the propositions, the laws, whatever's being discussed, that we're not left behind because we're not being seen or heard. And it's incumbent upon you and your children and your families and your friends to make sure that we're not left behind. Olga Campos Benz is one, Olga, raise your hand. Olga Campos is one of the most honored anchors, reporters of the Texas airwaves. A University of Texas graduate, Olga spent more than 30 years covering the biggest news stories in Houston, Corpus Christi, and Austin. When she stepped down from the anchor desk, she stepped into the philanthropic arena, leading charitable efforts of organizations and leading PR marketing campaigns. She is an associate of iMedia Strategies, the consulting firm owned by her husband. Olga considers herself to be a community advocate, serving on several nonprofit boards, including the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, the Austin Film Society, and the University of Texas's Division of Diversity and Community Engagement. She's been named a Woman of Influence by Austin Business Journal, a Woman of Distinction by the Girl Scouts of Central Texas, and by the Texas Association of Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. Olga is a 2014 inductee into the City of Austin's Women Hall of Fame, and in 2017, she published her book, her novel, It's News to Me, which takes readers behind the scenes of the often unbelievable world of television news. If you haven't read it, consider buying it. Comadre Teresa Carbajal Ravet was born in Mexico and raised on the Texas border. She grew up in a bilingual, bicultural environment, straddling two challenging worlds. She has dedicated her professional career as a culturalist Spanish linguist, fostering bilingual communication and community outreach and engagement in the areas of nonprofits, education, and literature. She's founder of a cultural community hub, which is also known as a co-working space on the outskirts of Austin. Her career and advocacy work have provided opportunities to engage and share the multicultural experiences with others, initiating a genuine interest and awareness in cultures and the other. She's an active community volunteer as a board trustee of several nonprofits, currently serving on the boards of the Friends of the Dripping Springs Community Library and the League of Women Voters, and especially she was just elected president of the Hays County League of Women Voters as the first Latina president. Comadre Teresa, I couldn't be prouder of the fact that you stepped up and that the community saw your leadership skills and invited you to do that. So now we will move directly into our presentations, and we'll start out, Teresa will start us out talking about government. Teresa, would you get us started?
Thank you, Nora, and thank you for the invitation. I appreciate that, especially to Olga, who made the initial call. So yes, I, as a volunteer and as the president of the League of Women Voters for Hays County, those of you that live in Texas might know, and those in greater Austin area might know that Hays County is growing by leaps and bounds. And the organization here, the local organization of the League of Women Voters, is primarily, you would see if you were in a Zoom call such as this, you would see older retired white ladies. And so I come in here into that space knowing that I'm the other, as I mentioned, or as Nora mentioned in my bio. So with that, my intention is to speak to groups like Las Comadres, my space, what I consider my space, and let them know of this treasure of information that can empower any and all voter, specifically Latinas, right? So I'm going to go right into letting you know Government 101 is focusing on the local. I am an advocate for if you're going to participate and you're going to put the effort, and when you decide to take that effort and empower yourself to participate in your government, start local. It is the local environment and community that affects us, and we can see it and feel it directly when you are focusing on your local leadership. So leadership such as your school boards, leadership such as your city government, leadership such as your water, as fine-tuned as your water distributors there in your local city, leadership such as your power, whether it's electrical or energy power. So look at all those boards.
Teresa, can you hear us? We lost you. We lost you.
She's frozen.
Shall we move on just to keep the time moving? Let me know, and then I can stop and she can come back in.
Go ahead, Olga.
Because our time is limited. So Teresa was talking about our local government, and right on that point, I will tell you that civic engagement really starts the moment you step right outside of your front door for that reason, because civic engagement really has to do not just with politics and government, but it's about making your community a better place to live, to work, to play. And so I'd like to share with you some of the experiences that I have had, some better than others, but worth trying nonetheless, so that the ultimate goal of being an unapologetic Latina is to make your life more fulfilling and a better community overall, for not only for yourself, but for your neighbors and your family. So as I walk you through the list that I've put together, I want you to remember that each of us is being urged to become active in our causes, in organizations, and particularly those that will impact the lives of ourselves, of Latinos. Your involvement opens up the opportunity, and I'm sure this is what Teresa was going to get into, but it is to serve, to direct the decisions about how money is spent, which projects take priority, and who the clients are. And in all three of those, the money, the projects, the clients, we want to put Latinos first and foremost, because as Nora said in the beginning, we have been silent or unheard for much longer than should even be allowed, not by law and not morally. So it starts again, as soon as you step out of your beautiful, comfortable home or apartment or condo, whatever, get involved in your neighborhood. So the list that I've put together are some starting points for that, and that starts with Nextdoor, if you know that app, that online messaging board, it is a wonderful opportunity to connect with your neighbors in a certain zip code, and then it grows as you would like for it to. If it is just your neighborhood, your community, your zip code, or beyond that, you can choose and you set the parameters with Nextdoor. There's also, of course, neighborhood associations. And I think about in February, and I know we made the headlines, but that February freeze left us isolated in our homes without electricity, some without food, etc. And we had no way to check on our neighbors because it wasn't even safe to walk down the sidewalk to knock on the next door neighbor's home. So with a tool like Nextdoor or with a phone tree that you might set up, that's the easiest way you're going to be able to check on each other and know that everybody is okay, particularly in times of a natural disaster. Anybody, if Teresa comes back, please let me know and I'll, she's there? Okay,
She's
good.
back.
All right. Then I'm going to stop right there. Go, Teresa.
My apologies. I don't know what happened. It just got cut off. So I'm going to go, I was specifically, and I think I heard Olga said, start in your neighborhood. Definitely, definitely, definitely. I will go to a tool. This is, I'm all about nonpartisan tools and resources so that for me, if I have all the information, I feel confident that I can make the decisions that I need for me and my family, as long as I have every single piece of information that I can possibly get on my hands. I'm a data junkie, and so I always tend to overreach on the information. If you can see my screen, you'll see the League of Women Voters. And the League of Women Voters is a national organization, nonpartisan, and it has state representation. So the League of Women Voters here in Texas has their headquarters here in Austin. And then from there, from the national and state, you have local. It could be by county, it could be by city. It depends, but you can always look for your league here from the national lwv.org and find your league nearest to you. The reason why I say is you don't have to become a league member, but you can access their information. Once you find your local league, and I'm going to go to my next tab here for the Texas League, this is a wonderful resource to find out who represents you at your state level and even as minute as your local level. Under the Advocacy and Issues tab, you will find the Take Action, and under the Take Action page, you will find who is my elected official. You enter your street address, your zip code, or you can browse by state if you're shopping around to see where you want to move and see who's representing what state. You can also look in that. I do know of some people who say, I'm had it with my state. I had it with my leadership. I am moving. And it is sad to hear that when a fellow good friend and mother of a transgender child is having to consider actually moving from one state to another because the current leaders in her state are making decisions that would be detrimental to her child, right? That is how leadership and policy making and decisions are affecting us at our home on the local scale. So this is a valuable tool for you to look at and find out who your elected officials are on a state and local and national level. But you can simply do your public school board. You can simply do your city council. You Google those and it comes right up and you start looking at the decision making that and policies that those bodies are making, right? So another wonderful tool or access that you might have as a member of the League of Women Voters, and these are public documents, is, for example, here in the Hayes County League, is league members volunteer to attend these meetings. So they attend as an observer corps of leaguers. They attend the school boards meetings. They attend the city council meetings. They attend the commissioners court meetings, and they draft very readable, easy summaries for you to see what type of issues are affecting your local community and how those elected officials are making decisions, and whether the League of Women Voters is stepping in to advocate for or against policy. We don't advocate for candidates. We don't advocate for parties. We simply advocate for policy that affects the democracy and the voting rights of all citizens. Olga, you want to take it away? I'm going to stop my share now. We can't hear you, Olga.
The League of Women Voters is an absolute tool that we should all have. Frankly, when I look at voter guides, the League of Women Voters, if I see that a candidate has failed to fill out the questionnaire, that's immediate 20 points off. And it will really help in your evaluation, because if they don't take the League of Women Voters guide serious, then really, do they take my voice seriously? I doubt it. So it really counts against them if they haven't participated in the League of Women Voters, as far as I'm concerned. Back to some of the other tools that I would recommend, and Teresa spoke to some of them about school board. If you're a parent of a school-age child, you really should be joining your PTA, as well as monitoring the decisions made by your school board. Right now, they're faced with, do we wear masks? Does everybody wear a mask? Are we going to provide virtual learning? These are the issues that will affect you and your youngsters' learning, and ultimately their health and their future. So it's very important that we stay active. It might be your church. Maybe they have a governing council that you could volunteer to serve on, or a committee. We all step out of our comfort zone when we do this. Maybe you're not used to speaking in public, but you need to build that voice. And the best way is to get to know who else is in that committee in your neighborhood, and the circle grows. And then it's not just you, it's a collection of voices, and that makes for ensuring that we're heard. The same can be said if you attend town hall meetings. And of course, with COVID, pretty much put a stop to town hall meetings, but your elected officials have the responsibility to hear their constituents, and the best way they're going to do that, some of the only way, we're not traveling to DC, we're not probably driving downtown to their city council office, but they do have the right to hear, or rather we have the right to be heard there at the local level. So keep track of those town hall meetings and step up and attend by all means. I would say too that by volunteering, and you can volunteer to be a poll watcher, you can volunteer to work on campaigns, you can volunteer to take surveys. There are all kinds of ways that you can volunteer, and that being there, you might be that person that knocks on the door that is bilingual, that will help that person who only speaks Spanish have their voice heard. So I would say that that's a very easy way to submerge yourself into whatever the issue might be. And you have to be prepared to walk the block and talk to folks and be up against often the money campaigns. The money campaigns will shoot everything down because they've got the dinero and they move the politics, they move the political needle, but it's grassroots really that moves the voters. And so, for instance, today was a huge kickoff here in Georgetown for our Voting Rights Act, and it was led by Vento O'Rourke and the Reverend William Barber out of South Carolina, who has been instrumental nationally pushing the Voting Rights Act. Now, all of a sudden, they've got a 4-day march that's underway here from Georgetown to Austin. It will end at the state capitol on Saturday. That those folks, they're not powered by money. As the saying goes, they're powered by people. So believe me, everyone is welcome, and you don't have to do much of anything to make a sign and get out there and be with them, and bring your own water is pretty much it, and wear your comfortable shoes and be prepared to take breaks when necessary. But it's the way change actually takes place. So I would say those are some of the ways to get politically involved, but also to flex your muscle. Think about how important it is to shop local. Shop local is another way to exercise your right as a consumer to choose which businesses succeed. It doesn't all have to be the big box stores. It could be those that cater to what we want as Latino consumers. And so not only shop local, but get on Yelp and give those reviews to those Latino-owned businesses. Teresa asked me to do one for her cultural center after we held a retreat there 2 weekends ago. And I was more than happy to go on there and because it's a wonderful place for us to meet and for cultural activities to take place. So if my positive review on Yelp can help her get more business, then it's a win-win for all of us. And if you don't have maybe a outreach within the consumer circles, you might think about actually building a directory of Latino-owned businesses in your community. Put that together or push Google to do one. During all of the attention that was focused on Black Lives Matter, you bet Google put together some Black-owned business directories. We should be demanding the same thing for the Latino-owned businesses without apology. Just where is it? Where's ours? And be somebody that might be willing to take the lead on that, so that you can help our fellow Latinos who are business owners get front and center with the businesses that they owned. Let's see, what else am I gonna tell you? Of course, join a club, take a class, teach a class. Perhaps you know how to make papel picado or flores de papel. Offer your services and your talents at the community rec center or at the YMCA or anywhere where it's adults and children, someone who might enjoy that activity, or some dance folklorico steps. It is up to us to promote our culture, to take pride in it, and to share those skills. Bring in someone that you know and teach a class. Go on YouTube, record it and put it up there. You would be surprised how many likes you'll earn and how far and wide that one drop into the cultural water will spread. And there will be more people who will be wanting poetry, dance, art. It's really just amazing. And we don't even recognize that we have those skills to share with others. But whether you think about it or not, that too is civic engagement and civic pride and ethnic pride. So get out of your soft little shell, break through, girls, and you could be the star of your own YouTube video. Finally, I want to say that one thing that I've done on my own, and it's really easy to do, it's one of my links that Nora will share with you, is to get out in your local community and know and study the local history there. And you can do that with a GPS tour of your community that tech experts have put these together. They're easy to download, to follow. And I know that there's also one that was created here in the Austin area that takes you to some of the historic spots. And we did this so that you could do it in a pandemic on your own in the safety of your car or on your bicycle or by foot. And it's easy enough to just pull up on your smartphone. And the more you learn about where the community where you live, the more that will help guide you into the issues that are faced. And maybe it's the areas that don't have sidewalks that need sidewalks, or they don't have street lights, or they need a farmer's market. These are the types of engagement opportunities that sometimes we don't think about. And we don't think about it because we have sidewalks where we live, but there are communities where our hermanos and hermanas live that they don't have that, and they are not yet learned enough to know that they have the right to demand those services. So it's really up to those of us who are involved in a Zoom discussion like this to take what we learned and share it with others. Because again, the ultimate goal is to improve the quality of life for everyone, and particularly for Latinos this day and age when we're making up larger segments of our population. So visit a museum, learn about the cultural history there, take a class. Again, these are things that cost nothing or very little and will be of huge reward to you, and also give you insight into where your community strengths are and your weaknesses, and where maybe your talents could be best put to use. So I want to move on to our next chapter. Let me move my, let's see. The next one, this is part 3. It is how important it is to be informed. And I know Nora expressed to you that my background is in news, and yes, I'm a news junkie, but we should all be. We should all be watching the news, and we should watch it closely. We should also be watching for our elected officials whenever they speak. Whenever they say something, we should be listening to what they say, whether we support them or not, because only if we listen to them when they speak publicly can we hold them accountable. Can we say, Congressman so-and-so, on this date, you said this in public. Is that what you meant? Do you want to clarify that? I mean, how else did we notice that Ted Cruz was packing his bag and headed to Mexico when the rest of us were freezing? It's because people were paying attention to him walking through the terminal at the airport on his way to sunny Mexico. Imagine that. So we really have to be the gatekeepers that watch our elected officials and listen to what they say and hold them accountable for that. It's easy to follow them on social media. It's easy to hold them to question what they say, and to call their office to get their newsletters. You don't have to support them, but you do have to expect them to be honest and truthful. And we know that's a very, very difficult thing for some of them to do these days. So following your elected leaders, watching them on the news, and not only do we hold them accountable, but we need to hold our neighbors and our fellow church members accountable too, and our loved ones, our relatives. I have a girlfriend from high school, and I don't hold back if I have to tell her, you know, that post, it was incorrect. It was not factual. You really should take it down, because people are being misguided when they look at things that are erroneous. And, you know, the only best way to put it is lies. That's what's led to such a problem that we're facing now with COVID, because of the misinformation that's there. And really, truly, we have to be careful about what others are saying as well, and hold them accountable in as loving a way as possible, but sternly. You know, we have to be the mamas to all the rest of them. So I would say watch the news, listen, pay attention, and expect others to do the same. Fact check, fact check, fact check. And Nora's follow-up has some different sites on there that help you to know whether the person is being truthful or honest. because we really can't afford it. Lives are at stake right now, and Latinos are dying at a tremendous rate because of misinformation that's out there, and we can't let that happen. So stay as informed as possible, read books. There's a link that has the 5 best Latino authors that are out there now. Please take a look at that, pick up those books, support their literary effort, and pass those along, share those with your friends, your colleagues. Listen to podcasts. There's also a list that I've compiled, or not myself, but a site that lists the best Latino or Spanish podcasts, and they're all just amazing. So you can listen to a podcast, and a show of hands, I don't really listen to podcasts, but when I'm driving, I wish I did, because that's a wonderful way to use your time while in your car, or when you're doing your housework, or walking in your neighborhood, is to be listening to podcasts and to stay informed that way. So consider that as another option. Also, documentaries, those are powerful. And the one that I highly recommend is an HBO documentary called Exterminating All the Brutes. I warn my friends that you have to be in the right frame of mind, because it is painful to watch. But there is no way that we should be forgetting how the explorers came to North America and brought their pox and their diseases and their religion. There were some good things, but not all good. And they enslaved the mestizos and the Indians and wiped out so many populations and such, that we are really struggling just to regain our footing in the world picture. And it never should have happened like that. They didn't come in peace like we would have liked. So that's something else. The documentary is again something that's worth investing your time. By being informed, by being effective, by gaining your voice, by being unapologetic as Latinos, we can become a force to be reckoned with in civic engagement, in cultural engagement, and in the future of our communities where we choose to live and to call home. We have to do this not just for our sake, but those of you who are our parents, for our children, for our grandchildren. It has to be a better world than what we're living now, and certainly better than where our parents came from and our abuelitos. We have to make it better. And the only way we're going to do that, as Nora has been saying, is to raise our voices, do so loudly, proudly, and without apologies. So I know I rushed through a lot, but my links are there. I'm standing by to help answer questions. I thank you for lending me your ear, and now I'm going to turn it back to Teresa to close out our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. So I'm going to add, before I go into the making sure that our Latina vote counts, I want to add a couple of getting your feet wet if you don't already are fully engaged in voting and your civic duty. Redistricting is in our midst. I believe the census information is getting ready to come out. And so politicians will be taking that information to gerrymander their communities and make sure that they keep their jobs. What our job is as Latinos, Latinas, Latinx, indigenous communities need to do is participate in that redistricting to make sure that they don't gerrymander our communities at the local level, right? And by gerrymandering, I'm saying that politicians usually try to cut up a community into as many little pieces as possible in order to diminish their voting power. So if we have large pockets of community members that are Latinx communities, that some politicians will take a look at that and say, okay, we need to divvy up this community, cut it up so that their voting power is spread among 10 instead of being a one powerful community and having accurate representation for that big one community. That takes place at the local level. And the League of Women Voters is not the only organization doing this. There are several nonprofit organizations participating and making sure and watching that gerrymandering does not take place in this process, right? And that we are keeping our communities of interest intact so that accurate representation for that community of interest is possible, and that we could elect the leaders that we want to represent us at our community of interest, right? So there you will see, or you can go to your League of Women Voters local group, and you will see that there's a call out for focus group members so that we can identify accurately these communities, right? So we're the ones that know our communities, and we know how it's defined, right? East of 35, north of Highway 71, as an example for here. We know that that community is highly a community of color. We don't want to gerrymander that community. And so you living in that community have such valuable information to give to these local focus groups led by League of Women Voters, led by Future Maps is one of the organizations doing this. And so we collect this data that once the leaders draw their maps, local, state, and national, draw their maps, we can say, that is highly gerrymandered, and we can take it to court because we have this information from local residents, local community members saying, you split this community up in so many small pieces that no one really is being represented. And so once we have that information, the legal system can take place and we can keep our communities intact. So that was a little added piece to Olga's turning passion into action. You can actually have a voice by contributing to these focus groups. On to making our votes count. So in order to feel educated and well-informed and have all the information you need to vote, and again, this is crucial, vote the complete ballot. So that is something that across the board, not only the Latino community, but across the board, voters generally do not, especially when there's no straight ticket voting anymore, right? You've got to vote for each and every election candidate and office and proposition. Propositions are again, that policy that I keep telling everyone is the policy that affects us at our home communities, right? So please gather yourself, like Olga says, gather your voter guide from the League of Women Voters and go through every single office election, read through everything that you can possibly read through. You can make your cheat sheet there on the voter guide, or we have the voter guide online at vote411.org. And if I'll put it in the chat room, vote411.org. That's the electronic version of the printed voter's guide. And again, you put in your address, you see what's exactly on your ballot, and you can go straight through the ballot from top to bottom and make your decisions while you are informed and ready to just take that little piece of paper into the voting booth with you and vote for each one of those items on your ballot. You won't see everything. It's just your personal, and do not let them tell you otherwise. You can take a piece of paper, your cheat sheet, into the voting booth and transfer what you voted at home in the safe space of your home and transfer it onto the ballot. They cannot take that away from you. They cannot throw you out. That is legally able to do that. The one thing that I do tell everybody, the younger voters in our midst, and you all can tell your younger voters in your community and in your families, that they don't want to print and they don't want to have an actual voter guide paper. They just want to take their phone, right? Everything's done on their phone. Unfortunately, phones at this time are not allowed, or the use of the phone is not allowed to help you with your voting. It has to be a piece of paper. It has to be your voter guide from the LWB. So again, paper or electronic, vote411.org. And I can show you really quick by sharing my screen. If I still have time, Nora, you tell me.
You've got a few minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. So you should be seeing my screen, Vote 411, all the election information that you can possibly need. You can register to vote. This is simply by stage, right? You can verify that your registration is still active. This comes into question when you hear on the news that there's been voting purges, right? So you want to make sure that your voting registration is still active. Go here and verify that your registration is still active. And then lastly, you see what is on my ballot. What will I see on my ballot besides the usual president, vice president? Go down the ballot, go see what's on the local level. Start there and work your way up, because that's where you're gonna see the impact of the decisions and policies being made by those leaders that live in your community, right? Or hopefully live in your community. Some districts are so gerrymandered that your leader doesn't even live in your community and lives up in north of the state, and you're down here in south central state. So that's how you find out who your leaders are, if they are even know where your community is. You can test them in those town halls that you will be attending. Do you have any inkling where Hays County is? And if they fumble, you know that, okay, my community has been gerrymandered and you should not be representing me because you don't even have an inkling of where I live. So going on personal voting information, put your state, your zip code, and you will see exactly what's on your ballot. And there is a voting election going on this year. It's 4 propositions, more than likely, and local candidates. And these are the ones that need your attention, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Comadre Teresa and Comadre Olga. I mean, this is extremely valuable information. And for many of you, it is a review. I know that you are very active in your communities, but I think one of the most important things that we need to remember is that, let's see, I have to stop this thing. Dismiss, there we go. That we need to remember is it's not just about you. You have to, more than ever, we have to get out and talk to our neighbors and try to figure out how to get them engaged and involved in this political process, because they're either making a difference by going to vote, or nonetheless, even if they don't go to vote, they're making a difference because they're casting a vote in essence for whoever wins. They didn't really choose that person, most likely, but if they didn't vote, whoever won, basically they voted for that person. So it's extremely important for us to do that. I know a number of you have been putting in some excellent comments in the in the chat, and we'll be sharing those with you. Is there anyone that would like to either ask a question or make a comment at this time? Olga?
I wanted to reiterate something that Nora said to me separately, because I think it's so important. Besides being unapologetic, we have to remember that these suggestions, we need to turn them into habits. We need to be able to do them automatically when we wake up in the morning, be thinking of, where's my civic engagement today? It may just be talking to that person in the line behind you at the grocery store and bringing up an issue with them. You might change a mind right there and get somebody on your side of an issue. So make it a daily habit, put it on your calendar, and recognize that being civically engaged is a choice. It's a choice that for many of us, our parents didn't have because they were busy working, or they were not here in this country as a voting citizen. Whatever it might have been that prevented them from having it as a choice, you have it as a choice, and it's one that you need to exercise and recognize that it's your responsibility to be civically engaged, and pass that on to your future generation. So that's all I'm going to say. But Nora had told me that, and I wrote it down.
Okay, Sonia, you had a lot of really good comments. Would you like to make a kind of wrap it up summary for your comments?
Sure. Thank you so much for having this. It's really, really wonderful to hear all the different, experiences. So, I mean, my biggest request would be for people to look around their neighborhood and make sure that those 18-year-olds are registered to vote and can become involved, and then we're better able to pull them out to vote when we need them, and also keeping them involved starts that early and even before. And so that's really, really important. And making sure also that we know what the rules are regarding voting in your particular county, because it does vary by county what requirements you're going to have. And that's what they're trying to do, is make it more restrictive. So those regulations generally are in the Board of Elections or Department of Elections, however it's called in your county, in their website. So it's that accessible generally, that you're able to see and take the time and read through them, so that they can't challenge you then when you go to the polling site. And if they could challenge you, but you'll know that this is the regulation, you can have it with you and say, no, I have my right. I have the proper ID. This is my correct address. And so those are the basic, really basic things to be able to do that, to preserve the vote. But everything else, I totally agree. Everything else you said about, I love the League of Women Voters. They have such great information, and it's multi-party. So it's really great conversation. So really, really good group.
And the League does the legwork. Okay, they put in a lot of time. It's a volunteer-run organization. So everything you see, all those documents, all this work that's done, they do it as volunteers. So two things: you can join the League of Women Voters, or you can make a donation. And then make sure that you have a copy of it. I frequently pick up a bunch of them and drive them around to different locations so that they'll be accessible to people. We also do them in Spanish. So I don't know how many, not everybody's able to do them in Spanish because we do have to pay for the translations. And so, but we do have them in more than one language at this point, English and Spanish. So it's really important. But the other thing that I really want to impress upon you, know your congressman at the federal level, and the local level and your city council and your school board and anything that impacts the Latino community, and make yourself be heard. Be informed about those issues. Know who these people are, have an email address for them and a phone number for them, and call them on a regular basis to weigh in on whatever it is that's important to you or important to the community. And another thing that you could do that would be very helpful is, maybe if you're a good writer, maybe frame some of these issues in terms of how it impacts the Latino community, and share that, because people frequently don't feel comfortable. They think, oh, what am I going to say? I don't know what to say. Do I call and say, I'm against this? Well, you could, but if you want a little bit more information, which shows that you're informed, then within our networks, there are people who write well, who can put some words together, make up your own words, but you have a frame of reference of how to say things so that you feel more comfortable in how to write it up. But if they don't hear from you, they think you don't care. Okay? Don't forget that your voice is your voice. And if you don't do this, if you do not write to them, call them, leave a voicemail, be on record, if you don't do that, they think you don't care. And ask others in your family to do the same thing. I'm hoping that families aren't split, but I know they are these days in a lot of those ways. So as appropriate, make your choices and do these things, because if you don't, by the time you wake up and want to do something, it may be too late. Okay? Just remember that. If it's too late, we're behind. And if we get behind, it is really difficult to get ahead. So think for yourself, like Olga was, you've got to plan your civic engagement. If it came naturally, you wouldn't be here. But it's not coming naturally to you. Put it on your calendar. Figure out, what do you need to be informed? Figure out, how do I be engaged? Get those phone numbers, get those email addresses, put them up someplace where you can find them, and use them on a regular basis. And say at the end of a week, do a check-in. How did I do? Did I tell anybody what I thought about that vote? Or did I? If you didn't, you're not doing your job. So let's encourage each other to do those things, because without us, democracy will not survive. We will have people making decisions for us that you did not get involved in. Anna? How are you,
Yeah.
Comadre? Good to see you.
I'm good. I just said heavy, heavy.
It is. It is. And if you're interested in running for office, let any of us know. We will help you. We will do what it takes. We'll help you figure out if it's something you really want to do, if you understand the entire process and what it's cost in terms of dollars and what it costs in terms of time. And would be there to help you any way possible. Anybody have any comments or questions?
You gotta
I
get
wanted-
woke.
I wanted to add to Sonia's suggestion as to get those young family members or community members and model your civic engagement by taking them to get registered, going to a registration drive, giving them a registration card. Here in Texas, by law, public high schools have to hold 2 voter registration drives at their high school, and they are required by law. It's not, schools are not held accountable, so we don't know which schools do it, and we don't know which schools don't do it. But you as a parent or a community member, you don't even have to be a parent of a high schooler, but you as a parent can ask the counselors or the administration or the principal, the leader, or even your school board. Is the high school holding 2 voter drives every year for the older juniors, and especially all of the high schoolers that are getting ready to graduate? So if not, then what can we do about it? Tell them you have the resources. The League of Women Voters will go in there right away. You call your local league and they say, hey, this high school needs help with voter registration. So that is how you get big groups, especially knowing how big high schools are in Texas. Big groups of young voters registered. That's the very first step. And then once they're registered, then you can start doing everything else in order to get them, empower them, and get them educated on how to vote.
Olga, any final comments?
No, I just want to thank everybody for their attention. I hope that you'll look over some of those website links. So there was others for finding protests, for finding petitions to sign, for finding out the events in your community. We just got tight on time, but it's all there in the information that Nora is going to send out, so that there are a multitude of ways that people can get engaged at the level that they feel comfortable. And then as they feel more comfortable, you just get involved further. That's the best advice for any of us. And thank you all for being here.
Yes, indeed. Thank you all. And remember that democracy takes all of us being involved on a really regular basis. And I cannot say that enough times. And we all need to encourage each other and to ask each other, how did we get involved this week? And do what needs to be done. And you've got a lot of good information that has been in the chat. It will be shared with you, and we look forward to, your response to when we send it out as an email is welcome, and we'll continue sharing that information at any time. Great resources by everybody. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night.
Thanks,
Good
Nora.
night.
Appreciate this.
Thank you, participants.
Thanks, Teresa.
Wow.